Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
By the way, I'm getting all sorts of ideas for how to navigate the construction here, and I appreciate each and every one of them. I'm aware of most of them. My assumption today, and this is sort of my point, was I'm going to go take a left. I'm going to take the exit, and then we got the roundabouts.
Yep.
Following Louisiana, because I know on the other side of Louisiana, on the other side of Cedar Lake, I know they've been doing construction there forever, but in my mind, I'm going, there's no way they're going to block it off before Cedar Lake, because that then precludes any chance to go either direction from there, right? Back away from town or back towards town or towards our building. That was the whole point of it. I know there's other routes. I'm like, they wouldn't. Not even MnDOT would do something that absurd. And then I learned that no, the
Cedar Lake in Louisiana is completely blown up.
It's completely destroyed.
Always.
As opposed to,
yep.
How about we do, that's a pretty main thoroughfare, Cedar Lake. So how about we do one side of that, get that done, and then we move over to the other side of that. And I'm sure there's going to be some complicated explanation about why they want to do it the way they're doing it. But that's the part that I'm aware of other routes. I'm just thinking, no, I'm fine going this way. And then I started seeing the signs. Anyway, you were saying?
The other problem there is there's no way to turn right and then get back on Cedar Lake.
Correct.
If you're coming from Louisiana. So you can't, everything is just shut off. I don't know what it is. They've got like a park or something there.
Yeah, you're right.
Because a couple of days ago, I'm like, I'll just keep going down, and at some point I'll see cars on Cedar Lake, and I can just shoot over. Oh, no, you can't.
No, you cannot. That's true.
No, you can't. So basically what we're saying is it's a miracle that we're here at 3 o'clock every day.
And I think the deal is on 394 around here, they're claiming they're going to be done by this fall. I don't think there's any chance. Do you think?
I don't know.
Fall's not that far off now.
I will
State
say,
Fair's right around the corner.
I'm hoping they can have the express lane by the time I need to start going to the U 3 times a week again. Right. That was a nice benefit to have. But a guy can dream. Let's start with the Twins. They lost 3 out of 4 in Chicago to the White Sox. Lost the first 2-1 yesterday. Lost today. Simeon Woods Richardson. His record now, Dan, 0-7 on the season.
What was the final today?
6-2. We gave up 1 in the
We
bottom
didn't
of the
lose
first.
2-1 yesterday. We lost like 15-2.
Did I say we won yesterday?
No, I thought you said we lost yesterday 2-1 and then lost again today by whatever.
We lost the first 2, I thought.
That's what you said. Okay, I misunderstood.
Hang on. I might have misunderstood all of it.
I thought we won. I thought we lost the first one, won the second one, and then lost the last 2.
That might have been what it was.
And yesterday it was a bloodbath.
Yes, we lost the first one 3-1, won 5-3, got crushed. And really got crushed today as well.
Okay.
Gave up a run in the first, as I mentioned, then 4 in the third. We tacked on 1 in the 5th and the 7th, but it was never really much of a ball game. So we're 27-30. Now I mentioned Woods Richardson.
Yeah, he's struggled.
His ERA is 7.74, hasn't won, 5 earned runs today, 3 walks. And we tried to piece it together with a bunch of arms in the bullpen. Some of them I've heard of. And we head to Pittsburgh now, tomorrow. If you are interested in the standings, because believe it or not, we're not totally buried. We were a wild card team just a little while ago. We're 5.5 games back of Cleveland, now 2.5 games back of the White Sox in the division, and a half game out of the final wild card spot. Oakland/Sacramento/Vegas and the Toronto Blue Jays are tied for the final wild card right now.
We've talked about before how long it felt as if we used to kid Bozich about it all the time, that the White Sox literally could not play the Twins. It was uncanny, the level of dominance. Now, going back to last year and this year, it appears the tide has indeed turned. And the White Sox, by their standards, are brilliant because they've had to grade on one of the lowest curves in the history of baseball. So it seems as if a team we could kind of take for granted here historically, the White Sox, especially against us, I don't know that we can take them for granted any longer.
Well, one thing in the NBA, we are going to have to figure this out because I still don't necessarily understand it, but the Board of Governors today voted overwhelmingly.
I have no understanding of the new deal.
I know.
Yeah.
And thankfully, it doesn't seem like we're going to need to know a ton about the lottery. Like, if this was 10 years ago, we'd have to know this inside and out for how it would affect the Timberwolves.
True.
We're still going to want to know because we've got millions of draft picks coming and going. There might be more draft picks coming and going this summer. Who knows? But the 3-2-1 lottery that's been put together over the past couple of months, that is now official and will begin next year in the 2027 NBA draft. I can tell you this, at least. The new format expands the lottery from 14 to 16 teams. They include the 8 seed in each conference's playoff picture and adds anti-tanking measures where the bottom 3 teams are dealt lesser chances for the number 1 pick, flattening odds for teams that do not qualify for the playoffs or the play-in tournament.
The question is, and that in theory sounds like an improvement, I think the open question is whether for the general managers who are just possessed with the whole tanking prospect of this is how we have to get better, is flattening the odds enough? I don't know. I'm not sure that's enough, quite frankly. We'll see.
Only time will tell, Davey,
how this goes. But there's a lot more. It's hard to follow. It's hard to understand. And already there have been a lot of theories advanced that you, in effect, you are now changing the value of number ones that have already been traded away.
Yes. And
that's kind of funky. Now, I don't know if there's anything you could do about that, right? Because you're always going to have that issue no matter what you come up with.
Right.
I was tempted by the notion that seems counterintuitive, where you don't just include, you literally include everybody in the odds are the same for everybody in the entire league. And that sounds like a cop-out a little bit, and you run the obvious risk of the best teams maybe not winning it, but getting, whatever, 4th, 5th, whatever. But I almost want to so badly be done with this, I'm ready to take whatever blowback might be associated with that. Let's just, whatever, we're just going to have each year we're going to have a lot. And then maybe there's a system where if you win the lottery, you can't win it again.
I think that's true.
Is that true anyway? Okay, all right.
I think.
So I think the next few days will be first introducing it to the average basketball fan, trying to explain all the ramifications of it, and then I'm sure there's going to be a lot of eventualities that we haven't even thought of yet, of people saying, well, here's where you be careful what you wish for. So we'll see.
My 11-year-old will have to explain it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
He will figure it out much more quickly than I. Game 6, Western Conference Finals tonight, 7:30 tip. Oklahoma City, they tanked for a while, got some good players. San Antonio Davey, they tanked for a while, got some good players.
Yeah.
Now they're in the Western Conference Finals. The elimination game for the San Antonio Spurs, Davey, tonight in San Antonio.
Here's what's interesting to me. I'm guessing, I wonder who's favored tonight. The odds makers favor Okie City still without one starter and one rotation player, correct? Unless that's changed. I think that's still true.
I think you're right.
I'm going to guess that Oklahoma City is favored by 1.5 points tonight. OKC in San Antonio.
The DraftKings odds on ESPN.com, which is where I am right now, they have the San Antonio Spurs as 3.5 point favorites. 3.5 point favorites. Interesting. Okay. Yes.
I might be overreacting to the last game because as much conversation there was about, the not getting one play reviewed in time and the goaltending, a couple other things. That was pretty thorough dispatching. And again, we've seen some back and forth here, so that I guess that shouldn't mean that the Spurs are necessarily done. But I thought OKC showed me a lot, given the people they have out, because they didn't just win that last game; they won it convincingly. And here's where, for maybe the first time, in all seriousness, maybe the second time, there's real pressure on the young team.
Yeah,
right. There really is, where it's like you can't mess around with this thing. And they might handle that fine. Wemby obviously is going to have, I'm sure they're going to concentrate on him early, getting him the ball. He needs to shoot better, and he needs to rebound. And that means, I know he's multiple, and I know we love that he can shoot threes. And I'm not here to say he should play, like Moses Malone once did at the center position. But you got to get his ass down by the basket a little bit more often, don't you think?
I think that would be helpful, at least to start. Speaking of thorough dispatchings, the Carolina Hurricanes thoroughly dispatched Montreal last night. 4-rip. They got up 3-0 really quickly. then added one as well. They now lead that series 3-1, and I would imagine hope to wrap things up quickly so they can rest for their trip to Denver for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals against the unbeatable Colorado Avalanche.
And Claude Lemieux, the news breaking, earlier today, horrible news, has died at the age of 60 years old. It appears it's being investigated as a potential suicide situation. Not a lot of details on that to this point, but a tremendous blend of, I guess you could say, of violence and talent. Big-time winner in, what did we say, 4 Stanley Cup titles? And the hockey world is definitely in mourning. A shocking, massive loss. You mentioned you watched him during the pregame ceremonies, Montreal Canadiens. It was Monday night, correct?
Game 3.
Yeah.
Game 3. And I had to do a double take when I read it today. I said, Claude Lemieux.
Which Lemieux could this be?
We
It couldn't
just
be that
saw
guy.
Claude Lemieux.
Yeah, very true.
Horrible.
All right, we'll come back and chat football with our guy, Alec Lewis from The Athletic. If you have questions for him, in fact, a couple came in early that I've held on to. Please hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Back in a minute.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by...
Got a lot of very confused listeners out there right now. I'll give you some details on that a little bit later in the broadcast. Alec Lewis is going to join us in just a minute. Of course, he covers the National Football League and the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic. He's joining us now via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I bet you appreciated the dew point switch. I mean, still warm today, but a lot less muggy than yesterday out at TCO, no?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, because I'm from Alabama, like, any heat for me is fine. Like, I would say it's just when you get into May and it's still cold, that's where I really start to think about the decisions I've made in my life.
Yeah.
But, no, it was hot, but I enjoyed being out there. You know, it's the most electric May 27th practice in the history of the National Football League. Apparently.
I think you might know this, or maybe we've talked about it before. I spent 1 year working for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This would have been 1981, and
wow.
My job was I was a beat guy covering University of Georgia football. It was Herschel Walker's freshman year. So they had me swoop in for the football section. They wanted to do an Alabama story. And it's the only time I've ever talked to individually with Bear Bryant. And what's funny is what struck me about being around him and around practice wasn't necessarily, chatting with a legend. It was, as a Chicago boy, the utter steam in the air. Because, again, this would have been August, probably mid-August, maybe late August. I'm not exactly sure when. There's humidity off of Lake Michigan in Chicago, but there ain't nothing. I mean, the humidity in the South, like Georgia, Athens, Georgia, or Alabama, it's just, you can be walking around a corner and it just stops you. You just get absolutely stopped by the wall of steam and humidity. You obviously just grew up with it, so it didn't affect you.
Yeah, I mean, it was what it was, but there's no question, like, it's definitely miserable. And it does make you, it's made me, I'd say, appreciate what Minnesota has to provide. But yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of get used to it and you're sweating all the time. And it's kind of uncomfortable, but you make it to the fall and you get to watch the Crimson Tide, so it's okay. But I didn't know that So that will be a conversation off air. I'm fascinated to hear more about.
Well, I don't recall anything particularly about the interview. I mean, I think he was affable. I think it went fine, but it was I think that's pretty much the only time. A very memorable year though, because obviously Georgia won the then mythical, just ratings related national championship with Herschel as the freshman star of the team. So, do you find yourself now, moving forward, in the unenviable position that you are obligated to psychoanalyze every movement, every facial expression, every statement of the two quarterbacks who are allegedly vying for the number one job to be the starter when the Vikings open the season? against the Green Bay Packers. Whether you want to do it or not, you now feel obligated that you're almost forced to do so?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'd say it's interesting because you hear people say all the time, like, or I get it from people, either close friends or people who just read or listen to the podcast or what have you. They're like, you must love this. It's fascinating. It's entertainment. Clicks is what people always say. And I'm like, yes, but it does prevent me from getting to explore more real stories about some of the other human beings, a part of the team and dynamics within the league that I probably find a little more interesting. But it is what it is. I mean, as well as anybody what the quarterback play was last year and what the quarterback play has been for this NFL franchise for a long, long time. So I understand the interest in it. I understand the polarization, it seems like, between these two specific guys vying for the quote-unquote quarterback competition. So I understand it, and I'm here to cover every part of it, but there's no question that there are times where my curiosity steers me elsewhere, and that's just going to be how it's going to be.
All right, so we can talk about if anything interesting was said or done today. What amused me about the reaction yesterday was there's a lot of, and this isn't just, I'm not saying this necessarily is coming from you, that it was viewed as the way McCarthy handled himself was that it was almost as if he was a little ticked off or maybe pouting a little bit. And it amused me in that I'm not sure, like, to me, if he had been if it was pouty, if you want to describe it as pouty, if he had seemed too nice and too accepting of all that's gone on around him, then I think the interpretation would have been, you think he might be a little bit ticked off by the situation, and he seems to be accepting it so much. Maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe he needs to bring back a little of that 9 edge that's supposed to be in him. To me, that's the danger of over-evaluating any of this stuff, especially at this early date, because yesterday was pretty much the first day you guys have had a chance to talk with them, and really much chance to talk with Kyler Murray either.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right with that. It's not, I said this last night, I'm like, what did people expect? Him to say that he's excited to go to the state fair with Tyler and get Martha's cookies together?
Right.
Like, I don't know really what the expectation would be. They brought in a quarterback on a minimum deal who has played 87 games, started 87 games, thrown for 3,500 yards 4 different times, been to 2 Pro Bowls, and this was supposed to be his franchise. So you can very well imagine he would be perturbed by that. Yeah. And I did think to myself kind of exactly what you said of, like, in other alternate universes, if he gives a different quote or different comment, is the polarization of him or this situation in general going to create a narrative one way or another regardless of what's said? It's something that I thought about, and it's why, for me, like, the most important thing was, like, how did he look and how did Kyler look?
100%.
And so I said, I wrote this and I said it, like, I did think JJ placed the ball with accuracy. I did think he looked very crisp. Now, it was one practice and a minor data point because there was no pass rush. But that, to me, was more interesting and relevant than the comments that I understand people are going to cling to because of the era in which we live.
Yeah, I think that's well said. The danger to me would be if indeed you want to describe him as pouty or he's angry that he feels violated that they made this move. The danger would be if that anger indicates a lack of understanding about why the Vikings, on the basis of his own play and injury status, made it inevitable that they had to hedge their bet, right? That there's got to be that self-awareness of, I might think I'm 9, I might think I'm competitive, whatever, but I gotta be better. I gotta give them less reason to feel like they did what they did, because there's not a chance in hell they wanted to do it, right? That this head coach, he was staking his reputation on a belief that McCarthy had a chance to be really, really good. So to me, that's the only thing to be wary of. If he's wallowing in self-pity because he thinks he's been wronged here, that's a problem.
Right.
If he channels the anger right, and it's okay, I'm going to do 9 other things that I think I'm doing okay, but I'm going to make sure I'm going to give them less reason to doubt me. That to me is what you're looking for if you're running the Vikings.
Yeah, and I think the nuance with this that I do think is important to mention is from some perspective, the belief or the interpretation that those comments did hint at immaturity or perhaps just like a youth or a lack of discipline. That is understandable because as I have reported and as I've said and as I've written many times, those have been dynamics that the Vikings have had to navigate that they have, that they would have preferred to this point to not have to navigate with the player that they drafted with the number 10 pick. So there is a complexity there. I don't think it's as simple just like seemingly everything in the world right now. I don't think it's as simple as, one side saying admit nothing. What was he going to? I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's as simple as saying it was a sign of immaturity, et cetera. Yeah. And it declared why he is likely not to be the quarterback. But it's, again, for me, I think the way I'm going to approach this moving forward, and it's good to start off like this because it kind of just, it centers your mind. Yeah. It's like every day I will attend these practices and evaluate what they look like as quarterbacks and let the chips fall from there. And I mean, obviously include what I hear from conversations of the people who observe it even closer every day.
No question. I had the tweet. Now I can't find it. Somebody at ESPN, it might have been Barnwell, had a tweet, and I don't know if the context was accurate or not. And I think he was analyzing a lot of offseason moves in the NFL, and he's viewing the Murray move as a low risk, high reward. And here's my problem with that. I can understand the low risk part, given in one sense, because they're not paying him much, right? I mean, it's, as you mentioned, it's a minimum contract. The Cardinals have to take care of everything else. And potentially it could be big reward if he can sort of, become the consistent quarterback with the quarterback whisperer help that he hasn't always been. But I still think there's risk, Alec, because if he's the starter and he's ordinary, well, that's a problem because you still need the Vikings obviously need somebody to play better at the most important position on the field.
Yeah, and I think, the primary risk is just the durability.
True.
I told someone earlier today, there is a world in which you get to week 11 and whatever the quarterback room looks like to begin the season, you are down to Carson Wentz. That is a viable path. Yeah. And what we've seen in 2 of the last 4 years would tell you that's accurate and that it is something that could be realistic. So yeah, I think to frame this as a entirely no-risk proposition. There's a reason that he is not the Arizona Cardinals quarterback. There's a reason that no other NFL team just to say, all decided to pass on a guy who was a no-brainer, surefire, absolute superstar. But the upside does exist. And I will say, I thought he, yesterday, and it's one practice in May, I thought he looked really good. I thought you saw a lot of the talent that the Vikings have talked about, that people in the league have talked about, and it will be incumbent upon him to prove out that consistency and stay healthy. And it'll be incumbent upon the Vikings to build a system that doesn't force him to be the entire ship or the entire plane. I think for this to work well, all of those things are necessary.
So did anybody, I don't even know what we ended up doing today, did anybody say or do anything interesting on this front?
No, fortunately, we have, on May 28th, nothing interesting happened on the football field. But no, the media was not present today for OTAs. I expect to be back out there next week. And, it could be newsy over the next week or so. We'll see what happens with the GM front. But, No, nothing today. We have escaped a day in May with no national headlines.
You, speaking of the GM search, you reported earlier today that you believe the Vikings have finished the second round of GM interviews. In fact, wrapped that up perhaps earlier this afternoon. It's interesting because I saw a headline, and bear with me here. It was in the New York Post. It was actually online in the Post, and the headline seemed to indicate that McKay has become the front runner. So I was intrigued by that. I'm going, I haven't heard that before. And then I read the story, and in no place in the story is that supported. It's the headline. I guess it did its purpose for a tabloid. Do you have any sense of whether a front runner is emerging? What do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely. I would not be able to confirm that the New York Post there is what I would say. It doesn't feel like there is a clear, path of this is going to be the answer in any way, shape, or form. And that's probably. I mean, I get paid to have information. That's probably not the best route to go. But in speaking to a lot of people, both internally and externally throughout the league, agents, et cetera, you hear a lot of different things. I'd say the way that I would kind of categorize it is this. There's no question that Rob Brzezinski, ownership has an affinity for Rob, and that I expect Rob to factor into the decision-making kind of apparatus moving forward in some form or fashion. Now, what that will look like from a title perspective, we will see. And then as far as the external candidates who they interviewed, and it's 4 of them, John McKay from the Rams, Nolan Teasley from the Seahawks, Reed Burkhardt from the Broncos, and Terrence Gray from the Bills, I think, these are different guys in that, different levels of managerial experience, different levels of scouting history and expertise on the college side and pro side, and different levels of youth and age. And so I think it in many ways, the outcome here will probably depend on, do the Vikings believe a certain person pairs with Rob better than another, and what would that look like? That's kind of how I've thought about it. And I don't think any decision then precludes them from making extra additions or changes, I would say, to bring in more external expertise on the scouting side, especially.
Alec Lewis covers the National Football League and the Vikings more specifically for The Athletic, kind enough to join us this afternoon. I got a text much earlier in the show when I'd mentioned you're going to be on, and I'll give you his question now. He writes, this is from 218, I know that everybody's worried about the QB position, but I'm more interested in the offensive line and more worried about it. I'm wondering if Alec could have a comment on that. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting question because I stood yesterday for the first half of practice. They put the quarterbacks in the corner of the practice field. I mean, literally as far away as possible. And I wrote that it felt like the whole practice was designed to prevent speculation, which you can have an opinion on that or whatever. But right. I was standing over to get an angle near the offensive line, and I'm hearing the offensive line. I mean, it was some physical things happening over on that side of the field, and I'm thinking in my mind, I can't remember a May practice where the offensive line looks like they are this active in what they're trying to accomplish. Now, will this matter at all? Come the fall, we will all find out together. But I did think that was notable. I also thought it was notable that Christian Darrisaw was out there and looked, present and healthy. And so that must continue for 218's question for him to probably feel appeased. But I think, it's really going to depend on health. I mean, that's more than anything else. Can that unit stay healthy? If they can, I think they can be an average to an above average group.
Where are we on Darrisaw? How did he look yesterday, and what's the thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, I maintain that this is one of the most important conversations and subjects related to this team. Once you leave the quarterback and you step out from that conversation and enter the abyss of everything else, I think Christian Darrisaw it's a massive one. I mean, he is going to be 2 years removed from the ACL, MCL surgery come this October. And so you would expect this entire season, I mean, him to be, active, healthy, engaged, and the franchise left tackle that he's paid to be. And so, I mean, the fact he was there at voluntary OTAs, which these guys don't necessarily have to be, that was a good sign. But it has to be, I mean, in my mind, for me to feel optimistic and confident that he can be the guy that everyone wants him to be. You kind of need to see it every day from now until the end of training camp.
A lot of good questions coming in. Carl from Lake Elmo writes, is there a date Alec expects Harrison Smith to give the Vikings his final decision either way? I can't imagine he or the Vikings want this to drag into training camp.
Yeah, I'd actually say I'm not going to be surprised if it drags into training camp. I'm not going to be surprised if it, goes even past training camp. I don't expect Harrison to have like a big retirement, situation. I also, I think for him, given his knowledge of the defense, like showing up to training camp and just, standing out there every day, it's not going to accomplish much. And so, I mean, if anything, I expect this decision to be made very late where he has an idea of, what am I signing up for? How strong-willed is this team? What's possible? And I think all of the aspects of how this thing goes into training camp and throughout training camp are going to matter in his calculus.
Here's an Alabama question for you. This is from 952 guy, says he's been a long-term Minnesota guy, but thinking of moving to, how do you pronounce it? Is it Opelika, Alabama?
You got it.
Opelika, Alabama, and the Auburn area. What does your guest say about that area? What do you think?
I would say, depending on where you live in Minnesota, very different environment is what I would say. But I mean, it's a beautiful place in the South. It's very rural. You're very close to Auburn, which I do think is a beautiful town, kind of a hidden gem. I've said to a lot of people, even though I'm an Alabama fan, I think that football environment is the best in the country on a Saturday night. So, I'd support it, but I don't know if I'd trust me.
By the way, do we have a training camp date yet? It's obviously always late July, right? Is anything official?
Yeah, no, not yet. Not official, but I do expect late July, probably in the 20s.
Somewhere in there. That's it. And so you'll be prepared. But, I mean, the heat, like I said, doesn't bother you, right? The training camp heat, because it can get pretty warm out there. This is nothing compared to the South. It has prepared you well.
Well, I mean, I would say the longer I cover the team, the less hair I seem to have. And so there is a component of it for me of I've got to, really make sure sunscreen I'm dialed in. But other than that, I mean, it's I enjoy it. It's fun, especially for the first week. And then you've seen the receivers go through the same drills and you're ready for the next phase. But, no, I enjoy it. It'll be fun as hectic and nuts as it always continues to be.
We appreciate the time, as always, my friend, and we'll, it's become a 12-month beat, as you know, that means it's worth talking about 12 months out of the year. So we'll, especially if you think there might be pretty soon some general manager news, we'll certainly be in touch.
No question. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you guys, and enjoy the weekend.
Alec, real quick, so your reference is 100% perfect. I loved the State Fair line. First of all, it's Sweet Martha's cookies. You got to add the Sweet Martha's. It can't just be Martha. It's got to be Sweet Martha's cookies.
I worried about that, and I felt like I was stepping into a Minnesota Hornets nest. So I thank you for the correction. Yeah. I'll make sure to file that away. It was brilliant. Thank you.
It was brilliant. And now I'm thinking Kyler and JJ should go to the State Fair together. That's not what I'm thinking.
That'd be a hell of a story.
Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a story.
I mean, I try to give the Vikings marketing department as much juice as I can, so we'll see if they can.
The other thing I'm wondering you might want to consider, I don't know if you ever have a hat hair situation where you're trying to not show your hair is kind of messed up. You say you're losing it. Maybe you start wearing ski caps like Kyler Murray did, because that's what I was told. That was the reason Kyler said he had the hot hat on for the winter, ski cap on, because he didn't particularly like the way his hair looked.
Yeah, I think one of us probably could look better in a ski cap, and I would defer to him on that. But it is an option that I will consider. I've also been looking at the bucket hat, which is a Kevin Seifert staple.
Yes,
so there's a lot of options.
Yeah. Don't sell yourself short. I think you'd be okay in the ski cap. I appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
Alec Lewis helping us out as only he can do via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. A lot of good texts. Some of them football related, some not so much. I want to have another subject I want to explore before we're done. And as I mentioned, we got an interesting text from a guy who claims to have played in the NCAA tournament against Isaiah Thomas and the Indiana team that won the title. There was a very specific reason that story came up all these years later. We'll get to all of that and more when we continue here in The Fan.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
The name of the program will be with you until 6:30 this evening. Outstanding array of guests already today. Kyle Potter, the listeners via Dr. Dan's inbox, and Alec Lewis joining us. There is something to be said for, in the case of the Vikings quarterback saga, sort of keeping your eye on the prize, which is how does each quarterback look during practice? And maybe being less concerned with the body language or trying to interpret body language and making assumptions on the basis of, well, this is what that must mean, or this quarterback being separate from the other three quarterbacks in warm-ups must mean something. I don't know if 9 is wired this way, but there are athletes I remember covering who were very capable of purposefully doing something like that, and then elbowing the other players later in the locker room saying, guys, they're going to lose their minds. The Jackals are going to lose their minds because I made it a point to be standing or stretching far away from the other three. And then they all laugh together like, let's watch how they scramble and interpret something from it. So I don't know if 9 has that in them. But and I have no idea. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the first Jackal who will ask that question, if it continues. And we noticed, 9, that you warmed up far away from the other three quarterbacks. Does that mean anything? Can we read
What's that about?
What's that mean?
Yeah. Actually, you know whose body language I'm most interested in? Is the head coaches through all this. Because he's going to get chippy about this.
He doesn't. He's not comfortable with this
He's
stuff.
not.
He never has been.
He's not. He wasn't this whole last season with how things were going.
You know what he needs in that sense? He does need a coach. Because the best coaches, quite frankly, I'm not saying they revel in this, but they kind of don't mind it, and they know how to play with it. And even to occasionally disarm it, the tension, puncture the tension with a couple of good jokes. And I don't think that's in him either. So maybe you got to bring somebody in to do that.
Like a consultant?
And I would do it fast because training camp now is right. This is no big deal, right? A day or two, we got more activities coming. But he needs that teacher to help him before the start of training camp. Don't you think?
He's got to be prepared for the questions that he has to know are coming.
And not offended by them.
That's it. That's what I think got weird last year.
It did.
Is he was mad about some of the stuff that was being asked, and I don't think understanding why it was being asked or coming to grips with the reality. It's the starting quarterback that you've staked a whole lot to and said so many other things about before.
Yes.
And now none of that is matching up with how he's playing and how he's being handled and how you are all playing. And I'm sure that goes into the frustration because I'm sure he's mad that the plan hasn't worked out. He said before on the record that there were a lot of quarterbacks that he said, no, we're not taking that guy. Like he had the final say, or at least a big say, right?
No question.
So I'm sure he's annoyed, which makes a lot of sense. But you have to know that this is going to be the story every single day until it's not, until you name a starter and until that starter play. And really, even when you name him, there's going to be more JJ questions.
No question.
And there's going to be, and he's going to do the thing where he brings up the whole room. every quarterback that we have,
yes,
he's going to talk about JJ, he's going to talk about Kyler and Carson, too, and Max. We like the whole group. Like, no one cares about the room. Like, sorry, no offense to those guys. Everybody knows, how I feel about the Brownstones. Brosmer Brownstones. I love the guy.
Yeah, but it's not the story.
It's not a collective.
No.
It's about your starter and whoever and what we thought was the future, which was JJ.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a rehab center to go for, rehab center for chippiness, coaching chippiness, because it does work. It'll work against him. It'll drive him crazy. And it's almost like you got to embrace it a little bit. You got to embrace the whole thing, even if it's not particularly a lot of fun. You're in it. You're in the middle of it, and you have no choice. And again, the best way is to kind of diffuse it, I think, or to have fun with it. It's easy, I know, for me to say that, but I think there's some truth to it for sure. Dan, I was on the Alabama Birmingham team that lost to Isaiah Thomas and IU in Bloomington in the 1981 Sweet 16. We lost by like 16 or 18. I think we were maybe the closest game they had in the tournament. Isaiah was a stud basketball player, I agree, way underrated. You probably saw me play that game in the last minute or so. Tim from Withrow, Minnesota. That's an interesting nugget. Why are we even thinking about Isaiah Thomas? Well, we're playing off of the fact that the Vegas Aces head coach, Becky Hammond, formerly Spurs assistant coach, has been put in the meat grinder or confronted with a comment she made a couple years ago saying that she did not think that Jalen Brunson could be the lead at his size, or any player that size could be the lead player in an NBA title team. And it's been filed away, apparently, and now it's coming up because the Knicks have obviously cruised into the NBA Finals. They've not won anything but the Eastern Conference trophy to this point. But we were mentioning that if Hammond made any mistake in her original comments, and I don't think she has to apologize for any of it, it's forgetting about Isaiah Thomas, who was a little guy and did lead. He was the best player on back-to-back Pistons teams that won NBA titles. And, of course, Steph Curry, who, of course, we could have had twice, has to be put into that conversation, too. So you never know who's listening, right?
And that would be Tim Almquist from Forest Lake, Minnesota. He was a senior on that squad, the UAB squad that beat Western Kentucky in the first round, 93-68. Beat number 8 Kentucky, 69-62.
That's pretty good.
Avenged an earlier loss to the Wildcats. They lost to Kentucky at Rupp, 61-53 in December. They got them in the tournament to advance to the Sweet 16 to take on your Indiana Hoosiers.
Now, he does make a point worth mentioning. They got to play the 2 games at Assembly Hall.
I noted that. What was the story there?
And I don't remember what the rules were at that point that allowed it. That is a massive advantage that could not be forgotten, and it does not always exist. But let me give you their margins of victory. I think, when people talk about all-time college basketball championship teams, this might be one of the more underrated teams, okay? First round, actually second round, they beat Maryland by 35.
Yep.
They beat UAB by 15. He's got a good memory. They beat St. Joe's by 32. In the Final Four, they beat LSU. Dale Brown was our guy Dale Brown coaching then by 18. LSU was a 4th-ranked team in the country. Beat them by 18. And then in the championship game, they beat North Carolina by 13. Carolina, I think, was ranked 6th. So do the math on that. Every victory double digits, and in some cases 30-plus points. That's a pretty good run.
Four players on that team were drafted in the NBA, including 2 first-rounders.
And remember, that national championship game was played the day of the attempted assassination of President Reagan.
That's right.
And then they discussed, they debated whether to play it or not, and ultimately we did. I don't think we delayed it. My recollection is, I was there for that game. I think I've told that story before. That was the occasion where I almost got thrown out of the building. This would have been, Philadelphia. I'm on the very different days, okay? After the game, IU players on the court. They don't do as many formal pressers, so there's a bunch of jackals. We're around, in this case, Isaiah, talking to Isaiah, and I know I've told the story before. I'm right in front of him, and all of a sudden, as I'm taking notes, listening to Isaiah speak, somebody has taken, I think it's their right hand. I feel a hand on the side of my head, the right side of my head, pushing my head in another direction. In other words, he was basically saying I was in his camera shot. But he didn't bother to talk to me about it or whatever. He just decided to attempt to shove me. I didn't take that very well. And meantime, so I start arguing with that guy. I start, maybe swearing at that guy. And Isaiah's looking up like, what have I walked into here? And then security came over.
Wow.
So fortunately, I didn't get booted. Because that would have been hard to explain, not having the story in on deadline, because I got booted out of the arena.
That's not a call you want to make.
No, that's definitely not a call I want to make. And speaking of, good interviews, Isaiah even then was a great interview.
I bet.
He's cranky about some stuff I still don't understand, including Michael Jordan. But just an unbelievable basketball player, right? One of the best you'll see. Top five, I should say top five. I've already had that. It's the top of the hour break. It's the top of the 6. And let's get a brief pause in. We got a couple of other stories to cover. One of them from the "it all depends on whose ox is being gored" category, and we'll finish up with a couple of other texts as well. Stay tuned.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero.
You mentioned that the text earlier from an individual who had said he had played against IU is a member of the Alabama-Birmingham basketball team, Tim Almquist, Forest Lake, Minnesota class of 77, as you said. He's texted again to remind us that they're at UAB, Alabama-Birmingham. He played for Gene Bartow.
I saw that.
And, literally, UAB, there was a program that they made up out of thin air, basically, and Bartow went to coach. And, of course, Bartow's claim to fame is he was in the impossible position of replacing a legend, right? We've talked about that many times, whether it's Lombardi. In this case, he's the guy who replaces John Wooden, Gene Bartow. You have no chance. Now, they had decent records. They did get to the Final Four and lost to Indiana. The Knights, the undefeated team that I was at. I was obviously there for that game too, the 32-0 team. And I remember. So he went to. Yeah, I wonder if I was already in Dallas or I did this while I was still in Atlanta. I remember going to Birmingham to do a story on Gene Bartow making that move. The idea of you're kind of inventing a program out of whole cloth. It's brand new, UAB, and they had some good teams over the years, but they literally went from having no program, no history, to let's have a program, and Bartow was the guy who was given the job of getting the whole thing, started. And I think he did pretty well. But
he must have if he did UCLA eventually, right? Because that would have been after?
No. UCLA was before. That's what I'm saying. UCLA was
because he was in the 80s.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Got it.
So in fact, I think he was at Illinois. He gets succeeded in the mid-'70s by your guy, the Lou Henson.
Lou Henson, yeah.
And that then opens him up to getting the job at UCLA. And you can't even rip him. Because, again, how are you going to succeed? The cliche is, of course, you want to be the guy who replaces the guy who replaces the legend, right? You want to be the second guy, because then the pressure's kind of off. But if you're the guy who comes immediately after the legend, you got no chance, right? How do you have a chance?
It's tough.
Possibly matching what in this case, John Wooden, who, of course, by all rights, should have been coaching here. If it hadn't been for that blizzard.
Now, Minnesota's going to email in.
We don't even know that blizzard exists. But
he says it didn't. It's a great story,
he did a great job reporting on that. That I think that falls under the classification of wishful thinking. We want to think that We identified how great he was, and we didn't blow it on him. We didn't wait too long to hire him, which I think is the story Minnesota went with. It's like that Wooden said, I can't keep waiting, so I'm going to go ahead and take the UCLA job. And remember, that didn't mean anything then. You know, we look at it now, so of course you have to take UCLA. He made that what it was, largely. But, yeah, I think we want to believe the Blizzard story, so it takes some of the pressure off of a fairly significant swing and miss, shall we say?
I also live with the fact, I sleep at night on that because if we had a Sam Gilbert in the Twin Cities, we would have been caught.
Oh, no doubt. In a minute.
We would have been caught immediately.
In a minute. One of Paul McEnroe, somebody, would either the Star Tribune or the Pioneer Press, you would have been nailed in 2 weeks. Well, maybe not that short, but eventually they would get you. There's no chance.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
Google Sam Gilbert, kids, if you're wondering who we're talking about.
Yeah, he's back again. Bartow was something like 82-9 at UCLA and getting death threats. Said the heck with this and went to start a program at UAB. Larry Finch was one of our assistants. Great player from UCLA Memphis State 1973 NCAA championship game. Your guy, Bill Walton. That was the Bill Walton 21 for 22 from the floor game, which I still maintain is the greatest single-game basketball performance in history, even though I could never ever get Bill Walton to talk about it. You remember that? Every time I'd bring it up, he'd immediately change the subject.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that was about, whether he was bored with it or he didn't think it was that big of a deal, because that's a big deal. 21 for 22 from the floor.
Crazy.
They'll give you a commemorative print if you go 21 for 22 from the free throw line, which, of course, SGA often does. I'll do it for you.
I wasn't going to say anything about SGA.
Yeah, I was just going to try to.
The only time I ever heard Walton really talk about it was at one of the Westwood One dinners when, like, Jim Gray or somebody asked him about it.
Oh, is that right?
In front of a bunch of clients. And all he would ever say was, he would say that the 21 of 22, he missed a shot, got his own rebound, and put it right back up. So it's not like it was an empty trip, but he almost like pelfed. He almost Otani.
Right.
It was
shouldn't have missed the shot.
I shouldn't have missed the shot. Yeah. I had to grab it, lay it up, go back in. Well, that's all he would say.
I've given him crap I have given him crap over the years with not much greater success either. That run in 73 in the semifinals, they played Indiana, and that was Quinn Buckner's team. For those who remember the name Quinn, who went on to be, a very good, not a superstar NBA player, but a good NBA player as well. And there was a huge call in that game. The Hoosiers had a center named Steve Downing, who was undersized compared to Walton. It was a great matchup between the two of them. And Downing, the Indiana was in the middle of they scored 15 in a row to make it a game, and then Downing gets called for his fifth foul on what could easily have been called an offensive foul on Walton.
Oh, no.
So I did give him grief on that. That if you put that call, given the stakes, in today's culture, people would have been talking about it forever and ever, debating it, I guess, for one way or another. It's still hard to believe that Walton is not around for us to talk to. That's for sure. It's still such an absence, right? There's just an absence in the world with him gone. All right, let's come back, and I'll give you a couple highlights from our talk with Kyle Potter today and with Alec Lewis, and who knows what else as we set you up for tomorrow's Friday football beast as well.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by
Show Wrap presented by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the bumper-to-bumper Show Wrap.
Fan and a man in the air when we wrap up tonight. Is that the plan?
I believe so, because there's no hockey, right?
No, I don't think there is.
I was just told to put in a macro for the hockey game, and I'm like, I don't think there's a hockey game. Tomorrow, Montreal plays Carolina, but the Avs and Vegas Golden Knights series is over.
That's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Avs now wait for the winner. Well, who's to say? Whatever's coming is coming. Tomorrow, it'll be a Friday football beast. So Ben Gessling will be back in the mix. I can't even speak. in the mix, I should say. And Big Knocker's going to come to see us. Is that the rumor?
That's the plan. Meeting in Minneapolis tomorrow. He's going to come after.
Wow, that's pretty good. Well,
4
lots to
o'clock
talk to
hour.
with him.
Yep.
Ebola. Who knows what else we'll get to. There's always good stuff with the
First line center for the Wild.
Yeah.
He'll have a thought on that.
That subject might come up. That's a very, very good point. You're right. And who knows what else we might add to the menu on tomorrow's program. Today, good conversation with thrifty traveler guy Kyle Potter. We covered a lot of ground about ticket prices, he believes some of the myths regarding, when you can get better ticket prices by using the computer library, which he thinks is tinfoil hat material. What else did we get into with him? We talked about Delta Airlines running into some issues.
Yeah.
Whether it's cancellations of some flights, they've eliminated the stale bag of peanuts on on flights under 350 miles. Is that correct?
I found that out the hard way on the way to
Did you really?
Chicago. Yeah, last month. Or earlier in the month.
Huh.
Just wanted my Coke Zero.
Doesn't seem like much to ask.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They gave me some water, which I thought was awful decent.
Did it seem fresh or not?
It came from
was
the
it
bottle.
tap water or
I don't
the
know.
bottle?
It came from the bottle. I don't know if they just refill them now or what.
Yeah. I hope that water didn't come from the sink, like in the bathroom.
I lived to tell about it, so...
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was about a month ago.
That's very true. He joined, Kyle did, between 3:30 and 4 o'clock. Very good Dr. Dan's inbox entries as well. A bunch of those, which I think people were, once again on their A game. I thought they were very, very effective. No question about that. Hold on. I wanted to get a Larry Mondello guy text in if I can, because he's... here it is. Larry Mondello guy writes, I would like to put my hat in the ring for that role of humor and joke writing consultant for KOC and the Vikings. Can you guys put me in touch? We could try. I'm not sure it would work.
Yeah.
Could KOC, as Hendo suggests, benefit from a darkness retreat? He doesn't strike me as a darkness retreat kind of a guy.
No, he doesn't. Maybe the monks with Wemby?
Yeah, how about that?
I feel like that'd be more in
Yeah,
his
that might
wheelhouse.
be more into it. Yeah, you're 100% right about that.
Rudy apparently did something in Sedona. He just texted or put out a bunch of posts on Instagram from Sedona, I assume Arizona.
Pickens.
So, yeah, he's looking at
traded-
the mountains, had his shirt off.
Traded to the Suns? Was that is that code for that? No, not so much.
They could use him.
Somebody has written that they think the best landing spot for Randall is Phoenix.
Right.
But they don't believe Phoenix has anything we want. So there might have to be a third team involved.
Yes.
That kind of a
That
deal.
would make sense.
That sort of thing. Yeah, I don't have any idea at this point what Randall's value is and where that might go. Very, very difficult, I think, for anybody to say. It does remind me that tomorrow, if we have time, I do have a moodiness suggestion regarding this Wolves club. If for some reason the band stays together, that we can't quite just make the moves that we want to make.
That would be rough, I think.
You think that'd be daunting?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be at this point.
I do.
What do you expect tonight? Spurs rebound? Big game from Wemby? I think the Spurs still might win tonight.
Yeah.
Although they looked a little overmatched, but it really is, the story's going to be Wemby.
Yes. I'll say it this way. I'll cop out this way.
Okay.
I'm excited to see the Wemby response.
Yes, I agree. That's a good way to put it. That's what you're looking for.
At different time, like game, 4, whatever game it was against the Wolves, after he got tossed, and he came out and just asserted himself immediately. What do you have, like 18 points in the first quarter? Like, he's done that a couple of times.
He absolutely has.
So I'm fascinated to see how the whole thing kind of responds to, which was not a good performance by them the other night.
I don't even understand why. I'm continuing to get, I've had them all day. Some of these came in after your top 5 at 5. People saying that we're propagating a myth, or is it perpetuating a myth, or is it both, that the Avs have advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals. All I know is we were told endlessly that you can't beat Colorado, and maybe if we'd been healthy, we might have had a chance to beat Colorado. But whoever wins this series is going to go all the way. Certainly is going to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it
was a bye in the Western Conference Finals,
pretty much. So I'm just assuming that not only that. I mean, I'm assuming if anybody swept anybody in the last series, I guess in the Western Conference Finals, it has to be that Vegas got swept by Colorado, correct?
We have as smart and as educated a hockey fan base and market and community. We talked about it yesterday. Nobody does hockey better than us. Nobody knows hockey better than us. We heard it all year, and especially in the postseason. The winner of the Avs Wild series.
Continuously.
It's a bye to the Western Conference, or it's a bye to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Correct.
And we couldn't possibly beat Colorado because they were the team.
Yeah.
They were that team all season long. That came from the hockey community, the smartest community that we have.
It came from the same community that told us for years and years that the New York Yankees were unbeatable. That when we lost to them all those times, well, they're a better team, better, bigger payroll. Well, what are you supposed to do? So we, had then assumed the same thing, that the Yankees must have gone on to several World Series as well. I'm not going to check to see if that happened, but that's pretty much what we were told. It's the same concept.
Next time you go to Monument Park, you can see all the banners.
You gotta see, that's 100% true. Gotta love the shorty shorts. Have a good evening. That's from 651 guy. I think he's talking about the age of college basketball in the early 80s, late 70s.
The short shorts are coming back, though.
Are they coming back?
A little bit, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, not John Stockton short.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're pretty short now.
Pretty damn short.
Relative to what we did in the 90s.
Yeah.
The Fab Five era.
The very baggy look at that point, which I still prefer.
I love those, yeah.
I think that's a great look. All right, so we assume it's Fan on Demand in the Air coming up next.
It is.
A very